are the real professionals who come out for these kind of conferences, because you're on your day off now. When I did session myself and I was trying to get people to speak on Saturday, they'd say, well, are you speaking? And I'd say, yes, I am. When are you speaking? I'm in the last time slot, which I would put myself in that spot. Anyway, I'm going to introduce you to Brian Aspinall. I have a short bio of Brian's that he's given us. What we do too is we try to identify some speakers who are obviously like the featured spots, who are not just people who are doing the book tour, but rather are actual classroom teachers. And Brian is one of those. He's a grade 7-8 teacher at the Microsoft and a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert who develops web applications to support 21st century learning practices and pedagogies. His latest project, EdMental, is a tool to support and develop student feedback to improve learning. He speaks professionally on the topics of the 21st century education, assessment evaluation, and has given 2 TED Talks on education reform. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Information Systems and is currently completing his Master's degree in Professional Education in Math and Computational Strategies. Just before I leave, I'll just say one thing. We joke. I'm 80 years old, so when one of my old friends said, you know, you would have thought they would have waited for old guys to die before they brought this stuff in. Anyway, carry on.
Thank you very much. How are we doing?
Great.
Yeah? Everybody? Raise your hand if you're doing okay. So those of you that didn't put your hands up made really bad choices on that. Hanging out here. Well, this is cool, and I'm excited to be here to share my story, I guess. My slides have always just sort of been my journey from where I started to where I am today. Actually, not currently in the classroom. I'm on a leave of absence doing some other things for a short little while, but I'll get to that after. I have to go back a little bit and sort of preface the entire slide deck by beginning with a story about a time where I really screwed up. So I was coaching a basketball team at my school. And because of that, I was coming home late in the winter, and it was dark outside, and it was snowy, and I was really hungry, so I was in a real hurry, and I was rushing, right? This is a picture of my truck. So I was rushing home, and I pulled in behind my wife, and I left the keys in the truck. And I knew she was angry because she swore at me, not about the truck, but because I was late first, and then about the truck. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? I mean, picture it, it's dark, I'm isolated, I'm very fearful, I'm afraid of an angry, crazy person that my wife can sometimes be. Hope she's not watching. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I'm sitting on my couch, and I thought, what would my kids do in this context? I want them to be problem solvers. What would they do? If I gave them a problem that required some kind of knowledge and understanding to solve, what would they do? They would bing it. You laugh because nobody uses it. Just kidding. No, so I learned through this process that I actually don't drive a Mazda B4000 pickup truck. So according to the owner's manual, according to the little emblem on the front of my truck, I drive a Mazda B4000 pickup truck. But I was not getting any results when I looked up how to break into this thing, because I was not going to hire a locksmith, because it was 8 o'clock at night, and I knew that would be incredibly costly. So through the process, I actually learned that I drive a Ford Ranger with different clothes on. It actually says Ford Motor Company under the hood. Now consider this in context, okay? I'm sitting there, it's dark, I'm all alone, my wife's nowhere to be found. We don't have children at this point in time, so it's like, you can hear the wind blowing outside, and then like something like it's Armageddon here. But I wasn't really alone. As a matter of fact, I was actually part of a much larger community of 140,000 people that also looked at how to break into a Mazda B4000 pickup truck and watched this video. There was a whole variety of videos based on make, based on model, based on color. But this video jumped out at me because the person that actually created it had written the procedure in a YouTube channel. And I thought as I watched the video, I thought, wow, this is really powerful because this young individual created content for the internet without being asked to do so. And every time I watch the video, I see new curriculum connections. So we'll talk about those.
Today we're going to show you how to unlock Ford Ranger. It's locked. The keys are in there. And then what you want to do is take a little tool like this make a little hook on it, about, I don't know, an inch and a half. Okay, so you come over to your door, and there's a little, okay, so there's the 2 holes, and you gotta pick one, probably this one on the right, get your little hook in there. So now what we're gonna do is angle the rod towards the little, toward that walk. Yeah, the walk mechanism. And you can see it moving. And then just pull up on this.
And one more.
Pull it out. And you're open. Get your keys. And do that again.
I'll do that again. So I've seen this video a dozen times now. And every time I watch it, I think about curriculum connections. When I started teaching a little over a decade ago, I thought I had to know everything there is to know about apps and tools and technology. I had to be at the forefront of that. It wasn't okay to let kids tell me about technology. I had to know all about it, and I had to share it with them. And I shifted pedagogy very early on because I was just wearing myself out. I couldn't keep up with everything, all this stuff. So I now believe that I just have to be a master of my curriculum. I have to know everything there is to know about my curriculum. That's it, right? That's it. I can let the kids commit. It's okay to run a flat classroom without that sort of top-down approach. So watching this video as an intermediate teacher, I hear purpose and audience. I think about procedure. I think about explanations. I think about creating media content in an authentic context for the internet, looking for real feedback. This is a point, this is an opportunity for assessment and evaluation. I can talk about this piece of media that this individual has created. But not just the video itself, writing the procedure in the channel on YouTube. It was right there. I didn't ask this person to write, because it wasn't a student way. I didn't ask the person to create that procedure. Okay? I'm going to make a lot of reference to procedural writing in these slides. So there's a reason, there's a connection to this bit. But at the bottom of the procedure, it actually said that we'll do this in 30 seconds flat. I got this. Right? So I grabbed my phone and I went outside, being all cocky and arrogant like I was. And I said, okay, guess my first time. And the video said I could do 30 seconds. Because I said this once and somebody went, 15 minutes! And I'm like, you said I could do it in 30 seconds, so go ahead. Reasonable guess. 2 minutes, no. 42 seconds, and I wasn't happy with that, so I locked my keys back in the truck. And I did it again. So, I'm here to talk about curiosity, and I'm here to talk about coding, and I'm here to talk about computational thinking, which is the big idea. There's a lot of coding workshops sweeping the nation right now. There's a lot of people doing really cool, really innovative things with computer code. And I'm just here to sort of keep that conversation going and continuing to push it forward. How do we take moving sphero balls across the floor and really develop curriculum connections to that process? I admire the risk of playing with those kinds of robots and things, but how do we tie it back to what we do? How do we tie it back to our curriculum? So what is coding? Because we see Scratch workshops all the time. And prior to 2003, that wasn't coding. Like block code was not coding. Actually, it was in the 70s and 80s with Seymour Papert. I'll talk about that. But so what is coding? Well, it's a set of instructions that a computer does to perform a task, right? So in the video, that individual gave me a procedure for breaking into my car, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, I didn't have one of those metal hooks. So in a giant sense of irony, I used the radio antenna off the hood, I inserted the radio antenna, inserted it into the door handle, and opened it with the truck, so I didn't even bother to lock the truck anymore. So computer code is a set of instructions that a computer follows to complete a task, in a nutshell. Let me go back to 2005. In 2005, I started my first after-school coding club for kids. How many of you have after-school coding clubs at your school now? Quite a few. How many of you are seeing them coming or starting to come, right? Okay. Not in 2005, by any means. Now, I'm a little bit biased because I studied computer science, and we always gravitate towards our passions. And I was a new teacher in 2005. So you want to hang out in your comfort zone, right? Especially when you're trying to get a job. So I thought I'm going to do this extracurricular coding activity because a group of boys approached me and I said, we want to make a game. That's what 12-year-olds thought. We want to make a game. And I said, what kind of a game do you want to make? He said, we want to make the pooping game. And consider it in context, because in 2005, social media is blocked, YouTube's blocked, all of those channels are blocked. So I'm going, yeah, is this reasonable? Is this suitable? Where do I draw the line on this? And I thought, oh, what the hell? Nobody knows what we're doing in After School Coding Club in 2005, so we're going to do it. Now, I didn't know Scratch in 2005. I keep mentioning that year because Scratch is 13 years old, and we're just finally talking about it. It was released in 2003 on the principles of peers, passion, projects, and play. But it was ahead of its time. We weren't ready for that in terms of education and pedagogy. So in 2005, I knew all about conditional logic, variables, and Boolean statements and syntax, but I didn't know anything about Scratch, the tool itself. And that was when my pedagogy began to shift. I thought, I'm going to sit down with these boys and we're going to go through this thing. They didn't know Scratch either. They were picking it up way faster than I was. I started to say in Stafford, I'm like, co-learner. I was using that term. It's like co-learner. Like, they know stuff and I know stuff and we're doing this and we're making this is Flappy Bird. Before Flappy Bird. You get a point for every poop missile you catch. That's it. They get going faster. Anyway, about the game. So we're building this thing in Scratch. And I said, hey boys, how did you make the baby go to the right? Because they're here and I'm here and I'm trying to copy what they're doing. They said, change x by 1. Again? You change x by 1. So I'm okay. Change x, one green flag, change x by 1. Run. Boom. I went, how do I make the baby go to the right forever? Literally, as soon as I said that, I have to put it in a loop. But I'm shifting pedagogy, so I wasn't going to say that. I was going to let them tell me this. Mr. A, you put it in a loop. Forever change x by 1. Forever change x by 1. Boom! And the baby went to the right side of the screen and stopped, and I was so happy. It's like, that was incredible. I have a computer science degree. Okay? I wrote a lot of Java at university. But I moved the pooping baby from the center of the screen to the right, and I kept pulling it back like a slingshot, just letting it go, so it would just keep going to the right. Like, this is awesome. This is a real, interface that we can engage with. I said, okay, don't tell me, I'm going to figure out how to make it go backwards. So I'm going through the source code and looking for the go backwards command and go backwards block. I'm like, I don't understand this. What's going on? They saw the geometry before I did. They said, change x by -1. I'm sitting there change x by -1. They said, yeah, but it looks goofy, so I want you to make it flip when it touches the side of the screen. And I went, okay, boys, stop for a second. I'm going to paraphrase what you just said. You are translating a baby at a constant y, say 220 on Cartesian grade. You're translating a baby at a constant y by changing x to positive forever until it touches the side of the screen, in which case it's going to flip and then translate back to the left. And they were like, yeah, something like that. That's like 4 curriculum expectations in grade 7 and 8 geometry. Roll with me on this. I said, you have to explain the poop missile algorithm. Patent that or tweet that, poop missile algorithm. Hashtag STAO 2016. Poop missile algorithm. I said, how does that work? This is so easy. The baby is always broadcasting its location. I'm at -3, positive 220. I'm at -7, positive 220. And so the poop missile goes, I'm on my way. And it's hidden by default. You can hide sprites in Scratch. It appears at that location, plotted points on a coordinate grid. And then it translates to the bottom of the screen by using a -y forever. You catch the poop missiles at the bottom of the screen and you get a point. So where's this point system happening? Well, we made variables. So you made variables, that's how we got it. When I used to teach math without using this, kids didn't understand variables. We teach math in isolation, right? We teach strands, because that's how the textbook's set up. Don't you dare do probability, we're doing measurement right now. We'll get to that in the spring. So I was teaching math in isolation. I thought, wow, now we're spiraling this stuff, right? I didn't use the word spiraling like we do today, but I was looking beyond just geometry. We started talking about dependent variables and independent variables. Like the poop is dependent on the baby's location. That's something we should talk about. So I thought, this is really interesting. And let me sort of give you the profile of these students. They were heading to the applied stream. Keep in mind, grade 7 and 8 boys. Typically disengaged at school. I hate to generalize kids, but if I can sort of create that, you can picture that sort of profile. And they were engaged in this. And I thought, you know what? They constructed their own knowledge of pretty well the entire strand of geometry, a little bit of algebra, without any explicit teaching. The computer did all the work. There was immediate feedback, trial and error, and in an authentic context. And in fact, they were teaching me about it. They're helping me out with the geometry stuff. And I thought, well, now what do I do? This is 2005. I thought, do I give them a test? I don't know what to do. They've demonstrated mastery. How do I assign grades? Do I have to assign a grade to this? How do I give them a geometry mark? Because they've demonstrated mastery of geometry curriculum. So that's when I really started to shift pedagogy and think about going gradeless 10 years ago and working solely on descriptive feedback, because obviously research shows, and we all know descriptive feedback is #1. So I started to do a little bit of research around this. And it turns out it goes back a long, long time. I'm going to share some of that history, like Seymour Papert in the 1970s and the 1980s. This whole coding movement has come full circle. It started 50 years ago, and we're finally now ready for it because technology is getting more affordable, right? Getting cheaper. So back in the Seymour Papert days, computers were really expensive, so there was no such thing as one-to-one. Before I get to him, I want to talk about how I went and did some unplugged activities in my classroom based on what I had just experienced in this after-school coding club. We're back to procedural writing, just like the video of breaking into the trucks. Raise your hand if you're an English teacher or a science teacher and you teach and or look at procedures on a daily basis. Hands up high. About a third, about a half of the room. Great. So I do as well, and old school me, Ryan 1.0, would make every kid in this class write the same procedure. That's just how it was. We're going to build success criteria. I'm going to give a nice little rubric. I'm going to put you all in the box. You're going to all tell me how to make toast. If you don't make toast the way I make toast, you're wrong, because I'm marking it. Like, it's as simple as that. All on a standard. And I thought, this is craziness, because, like, some kids don't even eat toast. Like, this is gluten-free. Come on. So, I thought, how can I change this and make it a little bit more engaging? And, I mean, we have a writing framework where I'm from. So these kids, by the time they hit grade 7 and 8, and I say procedural writing, they go, because they've been doing it. But I need to re-engage, we need to re-energize this. How do we do that? So I thought, this is ridiculous. It's step one. It's step one. So I put this up on this marker. We're dead in the water. We're done. Your procedure. Technically, you failed. Because I can't follow your procedure anymore. It doesn't work, right? We need to consider that context. I thought, what happens if we have no bread? Well, then the hands start going up. We'll go next door. We'll go down the road. Go to the neighbor's house. Go to grandma's house. I thought, okay, we're on to something. Keep going. What if the power's out? Why don't the power be out? We started to get pockets of narratives. Power's out because the zombies are coming, but I need to make toast so I can have all this energy so I can get out of here. And I'm like, wow, now I'm doing like little pockets of narratives. Even if it's orally, that's fine. We're being creative in this process. There's not a lot of creativity in that. We're being creative in this process. So how do you get bread? What does that look like? Where do you go and get that? Tell me about that. I thought, I just taught conditional logic. If, have, bread. Don't make toast. Else, go get bread. And I'm like, this is amazing, because now I've taken procedural, which is so linear in nature, and I've gone to that, which allows for critical thinking skills and a lot more curiosity, a ton of inquiry, and I can completely scaffold and re-engage the class. I start using the word algorithm instead of procedure. Essentially synonymous, right? Essentially the same thing. But they don't know that. Like, we're going to code how to make toast. I'm just tricking them. We're doing the same thing we've always done. I just sort of rebranding the lesson, right? So, oh, and let me back it up, because here's the hook.
Just in time. I believe I've isolated the algorithm for making friends.
Shauna, there is no algorithm for making friends.
Hear him out. He's really onto something. We could open a booth at Comic-Con, make a fortune. The initial approach to Kripke had the same deficiencies as those that played Stu the Cockatoo when he was new at the zoo.
Stu the Cockatoo? Yes, he's new at the zoo.
It's a terrific book that distilled its essence into a simple flow chart that will guide me through the process.
Have you thought about putting him in a crate while you're at the apartment?
Hello, Kripke. Sheldon Cooper here. It occurred to me that you hadn't returned any of my calls because I hadn't offered any concrete suggestions for pursuing our friendship. Yet perhaps the two of us might share a meal together. I see. Well, then perhaps you'd have time for a hot beverage. Popular choices include tea, coffee, cocoa. I see. No, wait, don't hang up yet. But what about a recreational activity? I bet we share some common interests. You tell me an interest of yours. Really? On actual horses? Tell me another interest of yours. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have no desire to get in water, so I absolutely have to. Tell me another interest of yours?
He's stuck in an infinite loop. I can fix it.
It's interesting, but isn't ventriloquism by definition a solo activity? Yeah. Wait, tell me another interest of yours. Is there any chance you like monkeys? Hey, what's wrong with you? Everybody likes monkeys. Hang on, Kripke. A loop counter and an escape to the least objectionable activity. Howard, that's brilliant. I'm surprised you saw that.
Gee, why can't Sheldon make friends?
All right, Kripke, that last interest strikes me as the least objectionable, and I would like to propose that we do that together. Tomorrow. Yes, I'll pay. All right, goodbye. All right. Time to learn rock climbing.
Okay, so by now everybody's hooked. We're saying flowcharts, we're saying algorithms, but you can see the level of critical thinking that went into developing that flowchart, because you have to consider different outcomes, different variables. It's like being a really good chess player. So if I'm going to take routines that my students are familiar with, and I'm going to throw it into a conditional logic mindset. So let's look at Monopoly. So my turn and in jail are variables. If those variables are both true, and they both have to be true, if one of them is false, I'm done with that if statement. If they're both true, roll dice. That's an action. That's a sub-procedure. Roll doubles. That is a new variable. If it's true, then another sub-procedure. Leave jail. Else, stay in jail. It's as simple as if pass go, then collect 200. Just to get my kids to start thinking about other perspectives, to get out of that linear procedure that I've been making them all do. So here's the best part. I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I'm completely biased because it was my idea. This is really brilliant. You got to check this out. You can take a health lesson. I'm going to go down to grade 2. So 5 years ago, I would say everyone's making a procedure on how to brush your teeth. So here's the new way that I do it. I'm going to break the whole class into small groups. This group over here, you're going to write a procedure, algorithm, function, module, whatever you want to call it, for getting toothpaste. They don't all keep toothpaste in the same place. Right? Back in the day, I would be like, that's not how you brush your teeth. Wrong, level 2. That's how I used to mark it. You figure out where you all keep toothpaste and consider that. We're talking equity now. This group back here, I want you to figure out, I want you to write the procedure for getting toothbrush. Get toothbrush, that's your procedure. Go. It might have 15 steps, because you can go as deep as you want with that. I don't know where you keep the toothbrush. This group over here, scaffold it for this group. I'm going to scaffold it for you. You're going to write a very simple module for brush, repeat, left, right. Talk about how many times you think it's appropriate. 20, 30, 40, I don't know. Simple procedure though. This group over here, you're going to write the module for cleanup. We're going to come back together as a class. As a class, we've written an algorithm for brushing teeth. As individuals, they've all written sub-procedures. Still procedural writing, but everybody has an opportunity to feel success because I scaffolded it and differentiated it without any explicit teaching. I've got simple procedures, I've got really challenging procedures, but everybody was able to write a procedure and contribute to the group activity. Then I go back and I say, wow, we got to do something with our cork boards because it's all cork because I don't print anything anymore. We're going to put something up there. And I'm not an art teacher, so I don't know what to put up there. So I thought we're going to make symbols for each module, and we're going to run through this. We're going to run through these scenarios. We're going to put push pins in. We're going to make it wet. Just pull string from each module to the next, calling on each other. Here's the best part of the story. 6 weeks later, a group of boys come to me and they say, Mr. Hay, we thought about you last night. Why? The power was out. But that's brilliant because some people have electric toothbrushes, right? So I thought, wow, they're totally engaged and they're thinking about these things back at home. I thought, old school me, if the power went out, they wouldn't have thought about a procedure for making toast that we would have done in class. So now I've talked about a lot of fundamentals of computer science without even pulling out a computer. We talked about conditional, we talked about logic, we talked about variables. We even talked about syntax. The syntax, because if you write Java, the syntax has to be 100% or it doesn't work. Our syntax is English. We're writing procedures. Your syntax has to be 100%, or we're not even going to run it. It's not going to work. So now I've got my kids really wanting their spelling to be authentic, really wanting their spelling to be accurate versus the other way, where I would have to edit and send back, and edit and send back, and I'm like, whatever. They knew their module was not getting called on if there's an error in their syntax. Okay, beyond just coding, I feel like coding is here. It's a snippet. I feel like computational thinking is here and there's pillars. Jeanette Wing wrote a paper in 2006 and defined computational thinking as the synergy of the human mind and the tools and technologies we have to solve authentic problems in authentic contexts. I feel like she wrote it just for me because it was only 2 pages long and it's really big font, so she totally wrote it for use. So I read the thing like 3 times over because remember, 2005, 2006, I'm exploring Scratch for making pooping babies and I read this. And I thought, this is brilliant. So computational thinking becomes that big umbrella, but it's not just coding, that's a pillar. Constructing knowledge by building structures in Minecraft, that's a pillar, that's computational thinking. Doing green screens, that's computational thinking. However, I strongly feel that telling every student or groups of students in class to make a green screen is not necessarily computational thinking. Providing kids with an authentic problem where they decide a green screen is a solution, that's computational thinking. Because I didn't tell them what tool to use. I exposed them to all these tools in September, but they're choosing the tool that fits the needs of the task as well as their own comfort zone to solve the problem, right? This is kind of a buzzword today. It wasn't 10 years ago. It's kind of a buzzword right now, but I think it's important. I think it's important because we focus a lot of our attention on math right now in Ontario for obvious reasons. But if we want to improve math scores, for those of us that care about math scores, and we want to reduce, I shouldn't say that, I think benchmarking is a good idea, but not the train that drives instruction. If you want to reduce mathematical anxiety, then we need to look at computational thinking as a strategy to support the new math initiative we have in Ontario, 300 minutes a week. I look at the right side. I can give you this digitally, but feel free to tweet it, I'll wait. I always do that. There's always somebody in the front row that says, I'm going to sit in the heckle row and I call them. I used to ban gaming. I fight that, right? We fight that stuff. I used to be like, put Clash of Clans away. And then I would go home and I would be like, I'm an idiot. That is the best tool to teach financial literacy. Anybody play Clash of Clans? Yes! You have to accrue gold elixir and dark elixir, and then you have to figure out where you want to spend it. You have to decide if you want to spend it upgrading walls or upgrading wizard towers, and there's pros and cons to both, but there's a time component attached to that. You could upgrade a wall immediately, but the wizard hut might take a week in real time to do, so you have to figure out which one you want to upgrade. Most of our kids are playing this game, but that's financial literacy. We're going to talk about Minecraft, and we're going to talk about acquiring redstone. Use it sparingly. I need you to build circuits. You have to use it sparingly because it's not an infinite amount of redstone. You have to go back out and you have to mine it. So I started creating after school, at night, Clash of Clans armies. Half the boys in my class and me are in a clan. Together, trading off troops and planning strategies for wars. And guess what? All of their fathers joined our clan too. They're this massive army talking about financial literacy after hours. I'm going to share a few stories from my classroom in terms of simulation, and I think this is the perfect context, perfect conference to talk about simulation. So I'll get to that. But we have to go back and we have to look. This is about pedagogy first. So let's go back to the 70s and the 80s. Seymour Papert was a big advocate for the computer to revolutionize education. He was a disruptor and said things that really upset people, like we don't go to the pencil lab to learn about pencils. Get rid of computer labs. He said those things 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And we're just starting now to dismantle our computer labs and sort of go back to this model. But what's so powerful about Seymour Papert and his work, he was playing with robots on the floor long time ago. Today we're doing it with Sphero, today we're doing it with Dashdot. He was doing it long time ago. But he was doing it purposefully. He was having kids explore geometric patterns by drawing spiral art on the ground. He believed if you wanted kids to construct their own knowledge of mathematics, he was a proponent of Piaget's work of constructivism. If you want kids to construct their own knowledge, they have to do it through kinesthetic activities. If you want them to find the perimeter of this room, they should walk themselves and use their own footsteps as a unit of measure. If you want kids to explore the perimeter of a trapezoid, then put one on the ground and make them walk it, and then have them tell the robot to do it. Because he believed if they could apply the concepts, then they had demonstrated mastery in that area. He was talking about Gradius a long time ago. He actually invented the first block coding language, right? Raise your hand if you're familiar with Logo. Nobody's familiar with Logo? One person's familiar with Logo. Okay, interesting. Typically, a lot of hands go up. So Logo was a programming language in the 70s and 80s in schools where kids would go on and they would use simply that to move a turtle across the screen. And he believed that teachers should teach geometry through this because he would get kids up and actually do it and then get on the computer and tell the turtle to do it in the 80s. Now, what did schools and industry look like in those days? Well, in the 1970s, parts of North America were experimenting with open concept, right? As educators, so I practiced taught two open concept schools, and it was a gong show. In the 70s and 80s, we were experimenting with this stuff, but pedagogically, educators weren't ready for it, so we created temporary structures, bookshelves. And on top of the bookshelves, we would stack overheads and then hang our coat on it, so we could create this silo, this fishbowl, and push kids back to the corner, because that was our comfort zone. We never even thought of having hundreds of kids in the same room of different age groups, collaborating with different teachers. We weren't ready for that. So it sort of tanked, right? Raise your hand if you have a makerspace at your school. Open concept, right? You have kids of different age groups, learning commons, hanging out in the library now. There's some validity to that. The 80s are what I call the hardware era, so we saw the birth of the personal computer. All of a sudden, we could put computers in a school and kids could go and play on this brand new technology. We didn't really supplement lessons with the computer, but we knew it was important. We knew it was a really expensive piece of technology. We knew it was the future, right? The Apple Mac, the first whatever, 1984. So the computer became a scheduled event. It was an add-on. It was something added to the timetable where kids could have 10 or 15 minutes and they could go play on the computer, but we didn't do anything with that. We were just sort of exposing them to it. Fast forward to the 90s, what I call the software era. So we've got hardware, software, and we'll continue with that. We're talking about productivity. We saw the first operating system, Windows 95, the first graphical operating system where you could move computer mouse around and actually manipulate things. We've never seen that before. The computer lab now had a purpose. We could put kids in the lab and they could type. The mindset of the 90s was every kid has to type really fast and be really accurate. So on their cover letter, they could say words per minute. Just saying. Words per minute. Right? That's what we believed was an important skill in the 90s. But so the computer lab had a purpose, but it was still an add-on. In fact, so much of an add-on, it was a mandatory class. Where I went to high school, I had to take a typing class, and I had to maintain a standard of accurateness in order to pass this class. But we still weren't quite ready to use the computer as a tool to supplement. It was still very expensive. The end of the 90s, 2000s, scariest time in education, social media, internet, cloud, full force, mainstream. Not ready for that. So what do we do in education? We shut it down. We shut everything down. We were going to just block everything and only let certain sites do. Rightfully so. Uncharted waters, we have to navigate who's responsible for a security breach, inappropriate content, who's at risk here if kids get put in some kind of setting. So we weren't using the internet as a space to collaborate. Keep in mind, Scratch, 2003, Mitch Resnick creates that based on passions, project, peers, and play, but we weren't letting kids play remote play-based learning in those. Unless you were like a science teacher, gym teacher. For some reason, those are always play classes. I don't understand it. I'm a science phys ed teacher, so don't disrespect. Okay, so the internet, we shut it down. But what we were letting kids do with the internet was what we'd always let kids do with access of information. Before the internet, we'd go to the library, look stuff up in an encyclopedia, have them summarize it, wrong word, present it back, research projects, things like that. That's what we were doing in the 2000s, but we replaced encyclopedias with Wikipedias, right? We replaced that. We hadn't changed anything else. We were still sort of doing the same kinds of lessons. So here we are seeing the biggest disruption education has seen in thousands of years. Because now we live in the era of mobility, where kids actually have access. A lot of them have access on them, and schools are providing access for those that don't. We live in the App Store era, where I no longer need to use a generalized web browser to have kids find information. I can use very specific apps like augmented reality, periodic table of elements to supplement and complement my lessons to help foster and facilitate what we're doing. So for the first time now, give or take 5 or 10 years, we're finally starting to shift pedagogies and embrace the tools and technologies into our lessons to further expand on the knowledge and understanding and thinking that we want our kids to do. Seymour Papert was way ahead of his time, right? Guess what? Mitch Resnick started Scratch in 2003. He was a student of Seymour Papert, who started MIT Media Lab. So he developed Scratch in 2003 when the educational world was not ready for a tool like that, letting kids play and construct their own knowledge. He wanted to further push Packard's work with more modern technology. But it doesn't actually stop with Mitch Resnick, right? Here we are today. Raise your hand if you know what Makey Makey is. A lot of us know what Makey Makey is. And guess what? Eric and Jay were students of Mitch Resnick at MIT. And under his guidance, he said, you need to hit Kickstarter because we live in the era of crowdfunding. And you need to take this idea of making pooping baby games on Scratch, but allowing kids and teachers to engage with them with physical circuits in the physical space. We're going to blend the worlds now. And we're going to continue Packard's work with everything he's doing with robots. And you're going to go on Kickstarter and you're going to put out Makey Makey. And of course it was successful. So now we have Makey Makey. You're familiar with Little Bits? The woman that started Little Bits was a classmate. Also a student of Mitch Resnick, who was a student of Seymour Pappas. This was I'm not going to show it. I apologize to those of you who've never seen Makey Makey, but everybody has, so I'm not going to show the video, but you have to watch it. It's hilarious. So, let's bring it all back to school. We've talked pedagogy, we've talked history of computing, a lot of stuff there. What does that look like in K-8? So on the left, we have a grade 2 classroom, and on the right, we have a grade 1 classroom. That's Kristen Whitney on the left from Windsor, and on the right, Jessica Konecny is a teacher at my school. Both of them are far smarter than I am, so full credit to them for these activities. They wanted to participate in an hour of code, but they didn't have access to technology. And of course, the mindset is typically, I can't, I don't have. Can't do, I don't have. Can't do, I don't have. So I said, yeah, just DMs on Twitter, right? What do? Just pull out geometry, location, and movement, because that's all Scratch is. Pull out that curriculum, make a pseudocode with buts. So Kristen Whitney on the left, right 90 forward, 4 left, 90 forward, 3. They create a pseudocode based on location, movement, and geometry. She puts a grid down on the carpet like Battleship. She puts objects in certain cells. She's using those words, cells, in grade 2. In a spreadsheet, in Battleship. And then she's having the kids stand around with clipboards, and she's scaffolding this without them knowing. These kids are strategically placed in proximity to certain objects. And she's going to have them write the pseudocode to get from where they are to that object, one step at a time, through this grid. And then she would have them try it. So forward, turn 90, forward, and everybody's watching, right? And so if she puts one kid that might need a little scaffolding, she puts the object in proximity, but another student who needs more challenging, well, the thing is way over on the other end of the carpet. But this is a wide walls, low floor, high ceiling, multiple entry point activity, where every kid has an opportunity to feel success because the scaffolding is so seamless. And she's doing it paperlessly, within reason to the clipboard stuff. The picture on the right is a total game changer for me. Are you familiar with the app Lightbot? Do you know it was developed in Canada? Do you know it was developed in Kitchener? It's a Canadian app. So Lightbot is a 3-dimensional space where you move a robot from point A to point B by linking block code together. It's brilliant. But it has its limitations. It's a scripted procedural app. Raise your hand if you've done the hour of code. So in the hour of code, it says, thou shalt do this, now go and do it. You're either right or wrong, and then off to the next one. Thou shalt go do this, you're either right or wrong, now off to the next one. That's great, but that's exposure. But we want to put kids in the sandbox where they can use block code to demonstrate learning. Those apps are fantastic entry points, but they're certainly not destinations, and we have to move beyond those sort of activities. Lightbot is one of those apps. It's a scripted procedure, move the robot from point A to point B. But here's the beauty of it. It's in 3D. The land itself is flat, but you go forward, backwards this way, and forward, backwards this way, or I guess left and right. So she only had access to one device, so she projected it, and she let the device become the teacher, which would just make Seymour Pappas so happy. The device became the teacher, freeing up her time to consolidate with kids and go around the room and have conversations and make observations like Growing Success says she should do as a professional. So she has them build the terrain with linking cubes, but here's the beautiful part. The app is perceived depth, but it's projected on a flat surface. So she's got grade 1 kids looking at this flat perceived depth image and then building it with linking cubes, which to me I think is a really great lesson in spatial sense. Huge lesson in spatial sense, which all of the research out there now shows strong spatial reasoning in early years is a huge indicator of mathematical success later in life, because it's thinking skills. So she had kids build the level from the app, move the brown block to the blue square on the far left, using the symbols we created as a class. She used symbols instead of words, but it's still her geometry curriculum. She would have those conversations with the kids. Groups of kids would think they'd solved it for moving their little blinking cube around, and then they would go up to the device and they would try it. And if they were right, the device would just show them the next level. So some kids could move ahead and some kids could hang out in level 1 or level 2 until they totally mastered those concepts. But it goes back to mastery. If you believe in the work of Seymour Papert and putting kids in open-ended, rich environments, then we have to change our assessment and evaluation practices. Those haven't caught up. We still have standards, we still have rubrics. We push personalized learning in an era of standardization, and there's a lot of things that we have to shift in order to actually do these kinds of activities. Because how do you evaluate something like that? How do you assess that with good feedback? Right? I'm one who thinks evaluation can go away, especially in grades 7 and 8, because assessment and evaluation, although there's an overlap, are two distinct things. Assessment is really good feedback, and I'm okay with really good feedback. Right? If you have two young parents, my brother and my sister-in-law have two young children, and watching them walk for the first time, I see, okay, my sister-in-law stands here, my brother stands over here. They're approximately 10 steps apart, so I'm going to make my connection to scratch. They're approximately 10 steps apart, and my niece Evelyn has never walked before. So my sister-in-law Alice is holding my niece. Go to daddy, daddy's going. And Evelyn takes 2 steps and falls. What do you think my brother and sister-in-law did? Right?
Ran over.
And celebrated 2 out of 10. They said, that's fantastic! Tomorrow it's 3, the next day it's 7, we're going to get there until you've mastered how to walk. And those are the things I think about when I provide assessment and evaluation opportunities for my class. So back to this stuff. I thought, okay, we've got to create a continuum so we can do a school-wide hour of code event without using technology. But we can also assess and evaluate some geometry stuff. So this is completely make-believe. I made it up. I just thought maybe this is what syntax might look like in different grades. But I thought, how do I do this in intermediate land? How do I do this in my world? What does that look like? I'm sending kids to a high school setting. Those that are going to pursue academics are going to see a lot of textbooks and paper in their future, because that's where we are right now. That's okay. So I thought, how do I do that? What does this look like? Well, I have many lessons about efficiency. I would throw this up on the smartboard and say, that's why the iPhone keeps getting smaller. That's why. And I thought, okay, that's cool. That's pretty neat. And then I thought, all right, here's what we're going to do. So it was valid rang. It was a day like most days where I wasn't prepared for the next class. Don't laugh. You've been there. So what am I going to do? I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to open Smart Notebook Gallery, and I'm going to put green paper on the smartboard, and I'm going to drag out some arrows, and I'm going to say, I need you to move the robot from point A to point B. Go! Now, I'm contradicting myself because I now have made every student do the same thing, which I just said I don't like to do. But I had to expose them to the process. I think that was our entry point. Everybody needs to do this, thou shalt. There's only one solution, but do it. Okay, so they're going move, 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 turn, move left, and they're using positive and negative integers because that's grade 7 and 8. Great. Now we need to go back to the student learner level. Well, here's where it's open-ended, and here's where there's more than one way to solve the problem. So here's the wide walls, low floor, high ceiling, multiple entry point, whatever you want to call it, rich activity, where every kid has an opportunity to feel some level of success because there's more than one way to unlock that chest. Now we're going to talk about which strategy you used and why you used it. Why did you do that? But then we're also going to do some narrative around that. Why is there a robot? Why is there a locked chest? Like, what's going on? Is the power out? Where are the zombies? And we're talking narrative again. So I'm trying to cross-curricular everything. But I don't just limit it to geometry. We're down to 15 minutes already. I don't just limit it to geometry. I used to give kids the textbook worksheet, circles, grade 8, parallelogram, trapezoid, grade 7, right? Measurement. And I would send it home, and the student that did it in 10 minutes flat and enjoyed their evening probably didn't need to do all 3 questions. The other student that only did 3, well, he got punished at school and kept him in for recess because his homework wasn't complete, but it wasn't complete because he freaking understand and do it. It's the equity thing, the kid ask his parents, and no internet thing, all that other stuff. But this isn't working. We can't do this. I have to personalize, whatever that looks like. It has to be student-centered. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to create a procedure in Scratch. So here's a procedure in Scratch that draws a shape. And what shape does it draw is a great question, but you can guess. How do you know? That's my curriculum. That's what I'm evaluating. That's what I'm assessing. Tell me the properties of a circle through this process. Tell me the properties of quadrilaterals. How do you know what that draws? And I'm going to ask you what it draws, and some of you are probably foggy from last night, and you're looking at it and be like, I don't know. What does that draw? Rectangle. How do you know? This is the curriculum. This is the assessment. How do you know it's a rectangle?
490 angles, 2 equal sides, two parallel equal sides.
2 pairs of equal sides. So it looks something like this, right? Move 300, turn 90, move 150, turn yada, 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 yada. Everybody does the same. I make them all deconstruct. Like we deconstruct media and language class. We're deconstructing 2D shapes. What does that draw? And then I go back and I say, okay, now it's your turn. I have to go back to the student level again, right? I have to go back to the learner's level. Now I want you to go write a procedure in Scratch that draws a shape, period. I'm not saying everybody needs to go do the procedure for trapezoid. I'm saying go draw a shape. And guess what? Some of them will do trapezoids. The kids that are on an IEP, they might draw a square. And I'm okay with that. They did some 2D measurement. Guess what? That might be what's in the IEP, right? That might be the shape. They just happen to pick the shape they should be studying based on their unique program. But then there's the enrichment opportunity. There's kids in my class who are like, I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. Like, you're going to draw that in 3D. Like, I'm going to draw that in 3D. It's like, wow. Now we're spiraling my measurement strand, which we teach in isolation. I'm like, it's Fall Guys. We're doing the 2D measurement. You can't touch 3D until the spring. Because that's the textbook lays it out. So now I've got that wide walls, low floor, high ceiling. I'm using the jargon again, multiple entry points. But every student has an opportunity to feel success because they're going to write a script unique to their own comfort zone, their own learning ability. And then they're going to play with their friends. What do you think of John? Let's go out and try it. And then the kids are going to walk. It's going to stand, all that other stuff. It goes back to assessment and evaluation again. It's challenging, but how do you quantify something like this? Particularly in intermediate in Ontario, where you have to put an actual mark down. How do you quantify something? This is 72. Is it a 97? Is there a difference between an 81 or a 97 if you're in grade 8 and going to the academic street? Is there a difference? Right? We have to talk about that. It's time to move forward and look at growing success with the observation and the conversation thing. Anyway, if you just want to play with this stuff, here are the big ideas of geometry, regardless of what grade you teach. Just having kids code each other. Kids pair up, create a pseudo-language, have one group say, I need you to go deliver this message to the principal, who's on the other end of the school. We're coding friend bot. One's the robot, one's the coder. Another group might say, I just need you to go out to the hallway and get a drink from the water fountain. That's it, it's right there. You're scaffolding it again, you're differentiating it without any additional work on your part. I'm going to put everybody on the spot. Raise your hand if you have never seen this before. I should rephrase that. Raise your hand if you have seen this before. Where?
In the math curriculum.
Where in the math curriculum?
On the first few pages.
How many times does it appear in our curriculum document? Every grade. It's at the beginning of every grade. But what do? We skip it, we don't hear it. Because this is where I have to put on the report card. This is what I have to quantify. This to me looks like learning skills. And here in Ontario, when I look at the front page of a report card, I don't need to open it to know what the marks are. E's and G's. Oh, shocker, 90s. S and N's. Oh, shocker, right? So if we start focusing on the process of learning, not just that endpoint, not just that product, then perhaps we'll get kids moving. We start focusing on this, and guess what? What year was our curriculum document written? 2004, 2005. It says computational strategies. It was a calculator in those days. We've just evolved the tool, but the document is so good it doesn't matter that it's 10 years old. It was written in such a way that our interpretation of it can change, and that's okay. I'm running out of time, so I have to tell you about the simulator stuff. So bring it full circle back to computational thinking, creating simulators to have kids learn. The year the penny went away, I gave every kid a penny. Assuming your penny, I'm the best teacher. Everyone's getting a penny today. I need you to flip a coin, get out a piece of paper, and make a t-shirt. So intermediate math, my job is to teach experimental probability and theoretical probability. And now the more times you run the experiment, the closer experimental gets to theoretical, right? Okay, that's grade 7 and 8. So everyone's going to flip a coin one time. We're going to go around the room. We have 25 students in my class. So already we have a data set. What'd you get? Heads, tails, heads, tails, tails, heads, tails, heads. Estimate, we just had 25 flips. Where were we? Some are like, I don't know, 70%, 60-40, I don't know, something like that. So, okay, flip it again. And I'm not going to go around here. Just look at your own data. Raise your hand if you're 50-50. Well, some hands go up, and depending on the day, more hands go up than others. It's an experiment. said, I'm going to perform some like magic, witchcraft on you right now. I need everybody to flip it a third time, and I guarantee you no one's 50-50. So they do. Whoa, you're right. Some are 100%, some are a third, some are 66%, but nobody's 50-50. So okay, I'm going to put the smart notebook timer up because that's super engaging in those days. I'm going to put the smart notebook timer up on the smartboard and we're going to set it for like 35 seconds and I need you to flip it 20 times and I'm going to walk around the room and make sure you're all on task. This is the thing about compliance. I'm walking around the room making sure everybody's on task and I realize there's a group over here like, it's going to be 50-50, I'm not flipping. And then there's a group at the back and they're like, you want us to do flip this? Okay, we'll flip it. And they're pretending to see charts over here and they look over there and they're whipping pennies at each other. And then over here, it's like, can I have your penny? Can I have your penny? I'm like, oh, this is going really badly. But I don't know how to teach probability. It's the way I was taught. It's the way I've always taught. What do I do? So at the end of the class, shifting pedagogy, these boys came to me and said, we're going to make you a probability coin flip or a scratch. I said, pardon? We're going to make you a probability coin flip or a scratch. So what does that look like? Well, in Scratch, you can choose to pick a random number. So it's very simple. And now, when I think about the conversation, they orally told me the algorithm, which is a procedure of how they set up a probability simulator, which was way more engaging than making those. So how do you run through this thing? Pick a random number between 0 and 1. If it's a 0, show heads. If it's a 1, show tails. Tally that in a couple of variables, do some division. I'm like, whoa, and it's super quiet. So I said, you can work on this in class. I started to think about passion projects and genius hour stuff, and I was like, is it okay for these kids to work on this while the rest is something else? Okay. And this was a few years ago. I was like, okay, that's not quite what we do. But anyway, yeah, do that. And I realized the parents were coming and they're saying, yeah, they're working on it at home too. It's pretty cool. And I thought, wow, they're doing homework in an authentic context without me asking them to do homework. They're building a simulator to explore probability so that they can come back and go solve the problem, right? And what's so powerful about it, so those are all variables on the left again. Think about the pooping baby. So we've got flip heads, tails, percent heads, percent tails. Some are dependent on others. So percent heads and percent tails, that's simply heads divided by flips. Percent tails is tails divided by flips. So every time the simulator runs, flips goes up by 1, and if it's a 0, heads goes up by 1, else tails goes up by 1. So they do a little bit of division, bingo bango, away we go. But what's so powerful about the story is they come into me on Friday, 4 boys. Again, typically disengaged kids, but really like the coding bit, really like this stuff. So what are you doing? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. School starts at 8:45. It's done. So it's done. What do you want to do with it? We're going to flip it 1 million times. And I like, don't give a comment. Yes, we are. So picture it. We dedicate the smartboard computer to that, right? Because it used to be the smartboard was me. It was the teacher-centered classroom. But no. Let's assume we're going to project it. Cool. These boys, this is the goosebump part of the story. These boys had never had their work on display. They'd never had anything up on a bulletin board. This was the biggest, proudest, metaphorical friggin' refrigerator anyone had ever seen. And when the bell rang for the rest of the class to come in, they're beaming from ear to ear. While the rest of the class, you did it! Wow, this is working! This kind of thing. Please actually work. So, you don't see my screen. There you go. Oh, come on. I'm new. It's because I took my trackpad off. Bear with me. I have to do Alt-P. You know what I mean? So they created this thing, and we flipped it 1 million times. I'm going to continue telling my story while I look this up. And we have a lot of rotary at our school, a ton of rotary at our school, which I think is really important. But the limitations of that are when kids are knee-deep in a rich task and the bell rings and they have to learn French. So I mean, there's pros and cons of both. But, now I don't know, see, I couldn't do that with the tablet. The touch part, that's not that. That's right, there we go. All right, we're in business. Okay, you can see it, right? So I click the green flag, boom! We got 1 flip, it's heads, we're 100% heads. So here's what I did. They said, do it again! So I did it again. Click that flag, click the flag. It's hard to do looking up there. There we go! 2! Ah, this is 50-50, that's amazing! What, like, oh, I'm gonna refresh the page. Anyway, the point of the story, so by the end of the day, this thing doesn't flip a million times. It got to 777,000 flips. But, there we go. But, it was 50-50 to like the 9th decimal place, and I said, guys, and we stayed after school for half an hour. I said, a lot of large numbers. And they were like, cool. And then they went home, and we never talked about it again. But I thought that they demonstrated mastery. But they spiraled it because they used variables. They wanted the coin to actually look like it was moving, so they had to change a y value. But you just built me a probability simulator to teach yourself about experimental probability. Because when I said, I'm going to refresh the page and we're going to run it again, click reset, I'm going to run it again, boom, 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 and so on and so forth. I thought, I said, guys, is there a glitch? Like, how come it's 50-50 every time? Like, no, we really tried it. Keep trying it, keep trying it. So I thought, they've actually gone through and tested this thing to make sure every time they ran it, the experiment was different than what the theoretical part was. So, let me finish on, are we out of here at 12:30? Yes? Okay. Then I have 3 minutes to keep you because I have that power. This one. This one right here. Right here. And project. I'm going to leave you with this. Wow, I'm totally new. I had another kid make a Zelda game, and the gameplay is literally 12 seconds, but it took him 3 weeks to do. So we have to focus on that process and not just that endpoint. There's his code for that. This is the most important part. I told you the history of 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. This is where we're going. So by 2020, we're going to have more objects connected to the internet than people. That means for the first time in human history, we'll have more vehicles connected to the internet than not. Self-driving cars alone are going to eliminate thousands of jobs, but thousands of new ones are going to be created to support these new technologies. Today's personal assistants like Cortana and Siri, I can ask them where the closest gas station is while I'm driving. Tomorrow's Cortana and Siri are going to say, Brian, you need to stop for gas. My dad tells me that. But you should also get your wife something to eat because she's hungry and she has to pee. My dad also tells me that because our machines are going to track everything. So how do we position ourselves as educators to be ready for that pedagogically, but also to position kids to be ready for that? How do you behave in the era of data and the Internet of Things, right? There's going to be more jobs in the tech sector than qualified people to fill those positions. Skip all this, I'll leave you with one final thought. I want everyone in my class to be a writer, a professional writer, but that's not the reality. I'm a big advocate for computer coding, but I want to say that exposure is number one, and like broccoli, let the kids choose for themselves if it's for them. But currently, in many cases, we're not even providing the choice yet. We have to get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to have to live another few years to pick up on this. But it's been like, because I'm of an age, I've seen so many changes. When little calculators were darn near door stops now, it's just amazing the changes that have taken place. And you can see that there's a new wave. It's funny, in the conference, I've heard coding all over the place. Somebody came in from the Science Center the other day and said, you know what the key word is now? Coding. It's going to be really changing the way we're looking at a whole lot of things. Anyway, Brian, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Now, I've got to get the
Yeah, totally. Yeah.